Okay, this is module 2, setting up the PC. And the first thing we need to do is get Google Earth, Ximage, the converter, and Basecamp set up on the machine. And so the way I like to, and I'm going to give this caveat, these are the ways I like to do it, and there's a lot of different ways you could do this, but I just go to Chrome, then I'm going to type in Google Earth. And download that program. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to download Basecamp, and again I do that from Chrome. I'm going to say Garmin Basecamp. These are all free programs. I'm going to go to the desktop here and go back to the protocol information. Ximage is in here. All you have to do is copy the executable on the desktop and double click and install it. So at this point we have Google Earth, we have Basecamp, and we have Ximage installed, and I like to put a quick link on the desktop just because that's handy for me. Now the next thing we need to do is install the converter, and that's in the protocol launch information under converter. You'll copy that folder in its entirety to your desktop. You can see that here. I have it on my desktop. And so when you double click that converter folder, what you have to do is you have to go into the setup folder under the converter. So now we're working with the GPX to KMZ open converter information that you copied from the protocol launch to your desktop, and so you're working on that information that you have on your desktop, and it's permanently going to reside on there. You could put it in another location if you want. It doesn't matter what location, but I like it on the desktop. The first thing you need to do is install the Ruby converter, and that is an executable file that's been downloaded. You double click it. Remember, it's on your desktop. Hit OK. Accept the license agreement. This is a free program, and I would recommend clicking all of these check boxes. The key is you want that path information. Check them all. Hit install. If you forget to do that, double click the executable again and reinstall it. Now that we have the Ruby interpreter installed, we're finished with that portion. So what we're going to do is we're going to install the converter, and what that does is that pulls the code off of GitHub. And so you have to have internet connectivity to do this, but we have the open source code on GitHub, and while it's doing that, I'm going to mention that the converter information, all the open code, is on GitHub, and this URL will take you there, and you can see all of the development of that code on GitHub if you choose. So what we're doing now is we're pulling that basically the code that the interpreter is going to use for the converter. Now you're going to see all these command windows. They have, when you know everything is done correctly, it says press any key to continue, and this pulling the interpreter off GitHub does take a minute. And so now you can see that we have this file information. We've installed the Ruby interpreter, we've installed the code, and so now what you have to do is you have to set up this config file. So we have to set up the config file, and this is a one-time setup. So I'm going to just double click and open that in Excel, and what we need to do is we need to set the input, output, and icon paths, and that's all we really need to do for our USAR work. So the way to do that, the best way I like to do that, is to come over here to the folder under input in your Microsoft Explorer, and just click in here. If you can see this, I'm in the input folder. Click that and it shows you the path in. Hit Control-C to copy that path. And then we're going to come back over here to Excel, and we're at our input location below input. And what you do is you highlight all that, hit Control-V or paste it to make that input path correct. You do the same thing for the output and the icon path. So what I'll do is I'll come back over here to the converter, and then I will go to the output. I'm going to click in the bar. You can see the entire path. Hit copy, Control C. Go over here to your Excel file and your output path. Highlight that. You could right click and paste. That means that now our input and output path is correct. Finally, we have to get the icon path so it knows where to find the symbols. I'm back over here on the desktop to my converter. I'm going to back out to the setup. And I'm going to go to Google Earth PNG symbols, the Task Force Google Earth symbols. And you can kind of see these are the correct symbols. Again, highlight in the path bar, copy that, go back to your Excel file, and you're in the icon path now. Highlight that and paste it. Make sure those paths are correct. So that is the setup. I'm going to close this out, hit save. It's going to ask if I keep that format. You want to keep the CSV format. Yes, I want to make the changes to the CSV file. So it'll ask you 2 or 3 times. Keep CSV format. So now we have the converter set up. We have XImage, we have Google Earth, and we have Basecamp on the machine. The last thing we need to do to set up the PC, now that we have Google Earth, XImage, and the converter set up, is we need to make sure that Basecamp, or if you're using MapSource, gets the custom symbols in there so that when you're using Basecamp and MapSource, you actually see the correct symbols. It does not matter if you see them correctly or not, but it just makes editing easier and makes you feel comfortable, I think, if you do see that. Now, in MapSource, with a 7, in Basecamp and with a 7 or an 8 OS for your PC, Windows 7 or 8, the location of the custom symbols is in My Computer, under Users, under your username that you logged in as, My Documents, My Garmin, Custom Symbol Waypoints. And where you get those symbols is in the protocol launch information. There's a folder called Search Symbols, and what you do is you go to Task Force Symbols under MapSource, which works the same for MapSource's Basecamp. You copy those MapSource symbols and you paste them into the My Garmin Custom Waypoint symbols. And this is an example where you have to use a little bit of sense in that if you have different usernames, you have to make sure that each username on that PC under the username, documents, My Garmin, custom waypoints has that custom waypoint symbol set in it. Also, if you're using MapSource, the folder location of where those custom symbols are is different. They're actually in the C root directory under My Garmin custom symbol set, and that is all in the protocol launch document in detail.